need you to complete this, 150 and 160. So this 200 level courses. After this 100 and 200 courses, you should be able to enroll most of the upper division courses, like a 300 or 400 courses. So basically, if you search online, or you can go to our department webpage. So we have like a yearly, kind of a recommended yearly study plan. So you don't have to follow the plan, but I would say that's the most of our students will follow that one. So basically, if you follow that plan, then you will clear all the prerequisite course, requirement, then you are good. So department advisor and all the department, staff, faculty, we are not involved in the, admission process. So I would say, as most likely, you can address this, you can send this question to the admission office at the university level. So we have a question from Nate. Most of the computer science courses offer lab learning or simple lecture. That's a very good question, Nate. As you see, computer science, clearly you won't be able to learn anything without coding, without actually doing the lab. So eventually, we need you to develop programs. That's all we need. That's all we want. So, aligning with this, so most of our courses, I would say most the CS major courses, they will have very intensive computing components. Okay, for example, the 100 level courses, 150 and the 160, both courses come with a lab session. Okay, for example, 150 itself is a 3-unit programming course, but then you have to enroll this 3-unit course plus a 1-unit lab session. So the 150 lab. So it's together give you 4 units. Then the 150 lab will meet 1 time per week. If you know what I'm talking about, 3 units course usually meet twice per week. Then the 1 unit course meet like one time per week. So usually it's like you meet with your professor in the computer lab. Then it gives you a subject every single session. Then you will complete the coding requirement weekly. So that's for the 100 course. For 200 course and the 300, I don't think we have separate lab sessions, but it will be a very intensive or very critical parts. Coding will be a very critical part of each and every of these courses. For example, I myself, I teach 210. That's a data structure and algorithm. So we have totally 8 homework assignments, and then about 7 of them will require students to complete a coding project. Okay, so it's a very intensive coding. So of course, to complete that, coding requirement, you can use your own computers, most likely. Okay, so you can buy a laptop, or you can use your own PC. Our department, we also have, computer lab in GMCS 400, floor 4. So it's free for all the CS majors. So you can make appointment or just walk in. We got more than 100 computer, which are recently, upgraded. So you can use that as your computing resources. In the meantime, the computer, now, we are talking about in this year's is a cloud computing year. So the university also provide a free cluster count if you want. So you can, that's offered by different centers. So yeah, I would say the learning environment, we try to make it better. Clearly, for example, recently, there are many courses require a GPU, graphical computing units, right? The very, very expensive computing, parallel computing devices. So each will cost like $300 or $200 at a low end. So to accommodate the needs of these students, our department has, like 2 years ago, we tried to make a very special budget to upgrade the computer lab. So most likely you won't have a GPU on your computer, but if you want to use a GPU, you can go to our computer lab to use it. And oh, by the way, I have to mention that our department provides computers for CS majors or minors. Then the library, the university library, they have a very large, even bigger computer room. So you can make appointment once you have the red ID, official enrolled, then you can make appointment with the library, then facilities, then you can use the computer over there. Normally it's kind of, it's kind of a favorable way because the computer room and the library, they are next to the study rooms. Many students, they study at the library, so then no doubt about that. They have all the space, coffee, of course not free coffee, but they provide hot water, and all the drinking machine, many kind of facilities you can. So if you use the computer room over there, then it's just more convenient. Then throughout the campus, including every single building and the library, you have free Wi-Fi access. So you are welcome to bring your laptop to study, to do all the labs. Okay, so we have another question. Nate, completely agree. So you won't learn anything without a project, definitely. So do most of our CS professors provide office hours or source of out of course class help, where you could ask a more specific question about certain subjects? That's another excellent question, Nate. So our university required every single professor, not only CS professor, every single professor must provide office hours, okay? So you can definitely find out the list of office hours for each faculty through the department webpage, or you just go to his office, his or her office. Normally they will post, a schedule, out of the, on the door. So you can talk to him in private setting about any specific question. Okay. So like for example, myself, normally if I teach you one course per semester, I will offer at least 2 hours. For example, Tuesday, Thursday, I have 2 separate hours, for the office hour. So I can make appointment. So if you email me, let's say if you can't make that hours, then you can email, students can email me to make appointment. So I have another question. Any specific laptop we might need to be able to complete our projects on your own time? That's another good question. I don't really think we have any specific laptop, but normally if you have a Mac, that will be more convenient because many upper division courses, the professor, they will prefer Mac. So they may provide a code which are compatible directly with the Mac system. But it's kind of a minor thing. Most of the coding environment, they are, cross-platform. So, cross OS. So you don't have to use Mac. So I would say any laptop will just work. Then if you ask me, then I would recommend the Mac, just because, I use Mac all the time, just personal preference. Okay. Will there be in-person help on April 9th to understand CS curriculum map along with taking other GE requirement for first-time freshmen? That's a good question. I I need to double check with the department about the arrangement for April. But the CS curriculum map, so we can definitely, if you have a question about the curriculum, you can email me or other advisor. Then we definitely we can get back to you. But for the GE requirement, I believe you have to reach out to the university advising office. But you can ask me any question about GE. I won't be able to get the answer immediately, but I can forward the question to the right person. So I would recommend, if you have any specific question about the curriculum map, just throw the question by emails to me or Professor John, and we have another staff faculty advisor. She's a full-time advisor, assuming her position from this semester. Okay, so you can send a question to her. Just get more kind of customized answers for yourself. Okay, so we have another question from Tyler. So what programming language is taught for the CS 100, 200 level courses? That's a good question. Normally, at the department level, we don't have any requirement, say, for the programming language, used for individual course. So it's a leave to the course professor. So they have all the rights to determine what language works the best for their own course. So if we talk about the history, most of the 100 level, 200 level courses, they use Java. Okay, they use Java language, programming language. Most of them. So we have another professor, is very senior professor, he uses C++, understandable. Then myself, I work, I do my research in AI machine learning. With my research lab pretty much is a Python workshop, So that's why in my 310, the data structure course, I use Python, okay. But most of the courses, they should be, so that's kind of our, strategy. We try to diversify the the language you will use. You will kind of get exposed during the 4-year program of study. So you should be able to learn different languages, okay, throughout the whole program. So we won't be able to stitch any one of them, okay. As a CS, keep in mind, as a CS major, you are supposed to learn, you are supposed to know most of the programming language. So let's say after graduation, if you get a job, you never know which language they use, right? So, but you should have a position to, if you are new to a specific language, but with all the knowledge you learn in this 4 years, you should be able to, to master that language within a few weeks, okay? So otherwise, so I would say that's kind of our strategy, at least. We try to use all kind of language in different courses. I hope this. So what's one question from Raymond? What's a good studying computer when enter into CS? That's a good question. I would say maybe any computer that's affordable to you. Of course, I would say for the entry level, PC, I don't really have any recommendation. You can use your daddy's, for example, your parents, laptop, if they give that to you for free, okay, they should work. I don't think we have any computing requirement for the entry level courses. Most of the program you will develop in the first 2 years are pretty much very kind of lighting, lighting compute. They only need like a lighting computing resource. Yeah. So I'm not sure I answer your question, Raymond. So just try to get, whatever available to you. Then it should work. So, but if you want to use, I always, mention this to students. If you can get a laptop, then get a laptop. Don't use PC. Okay, just more convenient. In particular, when you study on the campus, between, for example, you have one course in the morning, 8 a.m. Then you have another course, in 1 p.m. Right? So where do you spend the time between them? Most likely, you will bring your laptop, find a room in the library, and then you can, use the free Wi-Fi. You can do the coding, your homework. You can, study whatever subject you want. So having a laptop is highly recommended. Then, speaking of the laptop, if you use the battery, sometimes it's one factor you want to consider. See how long it can last, right? Then, so that's just my personal recommendation. I don't think we have any strict requirement about the computer we need to use. Okay, another question from Nate. Would the programming language for a class usually be dependent on the class materials? Would the data science course recommend the Python for project? Oh, that's a good question. Yes, although at the department level, we don't have a requirement, say which language to use. But for each individual course, your professor will make it very clear at the beginning of the semester, say which language he will use. Okay, there's no room to, to negotiate at that part. Once you enroll that course, then there's no room to negotiate. So if he asks you to use the Python, you have to use the Python because, for example, he will provide all the sample code in Python, right? So then he will need you to, for example, to finish the coding project in Python. Then, so basically, there's no room to, so you are right. It depends on, the professor will let you know which language, he will use, then you have to learn that. Okay, if you are new to that language. But I would say, but don't worry too much about this. I would say, for example, once you can master Java, okay, let's say in 150 and 160, right? If you learn these two courses using Java, then I would say 80% the knowledge you learned will be applicable to other language. Okay, there's no doubt about that. For example, when you talk about memory management, when you talk about algorithm design, when you talk about the loop, right? File storage, network communication, all this knowledge you learn from a Java programming course will be most likely transferable to a Python language. So all you need, you probably, to use a new language, you just need to be familiar with the grammar of this language. So it won't take too long. Okay, it won't take too long. All right, so that's, I hope I answered your question, Nate. Emil, so for a pre-CS major, what CS classes should a first-time freshman can take? Very good question. So pre-CS major, so we need you to complete 150 lab and 160 lab. Just like other, CS major, there's no way. I don't think we differentiate, the CS major or pre-CS major, because everybody, you came in, then you have to complete, the 100 level courses first, and then you can declare major, right? Declare major in CS. So next question. So do I need to have any pre-existing knowledge in order to take this? Very good question. Because it's entry-level courses, I don't think they need you to, because they are 100 level courses. Come on, what other, we don't have any prerequisite course, before 100. So that short answer is no. You don't need any you don't need any exist. Once you got in, you should be ready to learn this. Okay, you have all the mathematical foundation you learn from your high school. You should be good to go. Okay. Do you offer any course pathway geared towards the cybersecurity? Nate, that's another very good question. So I would say you don't have to worry about this at least for the first 2 years. Okay, probably first 3 years. Because in the first 2 years, you have to worry about the GE course, the math course, the science course, and then the low division CS courses, like 100 level, 200 level. Then after that, okay, after the first 2 years, in your third year, you will study some of the 400 level and the 500 level courses. At that time, okay, you will begin to consider the elective courses. So to graduate, our program will require every student to complete at least four different elective courses. So there's 4 courses. Then you have a chance. You have a chance to, to make your plan. Say you want to get into cybersecurity or you want to get into AI. So that's something you will worry about like nearly after 3 years. Okay, first 2 years you don't need to worry about which courses you want to take. Then the third year, if you move faster than average, perhaps you can consider say which elective courses you want to take. Keep in mind, most of the elective courses will need you to complete all the low division courses and some of the 400 level courses. So they need you to have that, prerequisite courses complete. Okay. So although to continue my answer, although you don't have to worry about in the first 2 years about course election or course enrollment, but it's highly recommended for you to explore on your own. Okay, so this will include, but not limited to, for example, we have many wonderful researcher professors on the campus in cybersecurity. Then you can approach them and talk to them in person to see whether they have like a research position, or you can volunteer yourself to work in that lab. Okay, so you don't have to wait until the 3rd year or 4th year to study cybersecurity. You can study immediately right now. Okay, after this session, go to our webpage, the department webpage. You can easily find out the profile of all the CS professors. Some of them are working in cybersecurity. Reach out to them and begin the conversation. Then if they find that you are kind of useful resources or useful hands, then you can begin to work with them, even for now, after enrollment, right? So basically, this would, I would say, I won't call it a shortcut, but it gave you a much better way than course taking to study cybersecurity. So because these professors, they are working in the frontier of cybersecurity, they know exactly what are the current challenge and what are the research, what are the research interests in that area. Then if you work with them directly, then they will pointing out, say what material you want to study, and they may even give you a project to work on. This will make it, super effective for you to get into that field. Okay. So if you plan from now, then by the end of your 4-year study plan, so you can work with that professor through the capstone project. It's a 3-unit course. Okay, 3-unit course. So which means you can enroll that course, then it's a 3-unit. Then you work with this professor for 1 semester. Then you earn your research credits. In the meantime, you also earn the 3-unit credits. Okay. Then, but that usually most of the professors, they will prefer you to work with them longer than 1 semester. 1 semester is only like 4 months, right? So my recommendation will be reach out to them as soon as possible when you feel ready. All right. So next question. So do most students graduate in 4 years? Very good question. So San Diego State, we have a very high graduation rate, much higher than every other CSU campus. I believe we are in the one of this category. We are even higher than most of the R1 research university. This kind of we are very proud of. So I would say about 80%. If you look into the history, about 80% students, so they graduate in 4 years, including transfer students. Okay, transfer students, they complete about like the first 2 years in local college. Then they spend like 1 or 2 years in San Diego State, then they graduate. Okay, most of them graduate in 4 years. And then others will graduate in 5 years. It's very rare to graduate in 6 years. If you unfortunately for some reason, if you didn't graduate in 5 years, the CS advisor, including myself and the college advisor, they will reach out to you to see what happened. Okay, they can provide some help. That's another good question. CS 150 lab taken together? Yes. So you have to enroll them simultaneously in the same semester. I mean, it's recommended, sometimes required by the professor. So basically, you will enroll, CS 150 is 3 units. That one, 150 lab is 1 unit. So you need this 4 units anyway. All right, so it seems we have all the questions answered. What classes do I teach? Very interesting question. So I teach so currently I teach 210, data structure and algorithm. So I used to offer multiple courses in AI. For example, I teach machine learning. That is 549. And then I have another course offer for graduate students only. Sometimes I see senior students who use this, for interest. That one is 653, data mining. Then I used to offer another course in computer vision. That's my own research area. So that course, I highly recommend if you want to. You guys know computer vision, right? Like a CCTV system. You have the camera, you have a camera installed anywhere. For example, the smartphone. If you try to use your face to open the phone, right? So that one is like a, computer vision. So you use a computer to recognize the things just like a human being using the human eyes. So I believe we are the only department to offer this kind of AI courses on the campus. So if you want to learn more about this, definitely you're more than welcome to reach out to me, so we can talk about your research interest. So our department, I just want to give you more background about our department. So currently we have 15, around 15 tenure track professors. We have other about 16 full-time or part-time instructor. So totally we have around like 30 faculty members. So so all the tenure track faculty members, they maintain very active research program. Okay, so if you watch the video, so we made to introduce the computer science department. So we have around like 12 professors who are working in the frontier of computer science and relevant area. So this area, for example, they include AI, natural language processing, cybersecurity, robotics, then data science, say big data. Then we have people to work on computer system, multimedia communication. And then there's another professor, Professor Tao Xie, he works in computer storage. And then our department chair, Dr. Shangping Ren, she works in cybersecurity system. He's a well-known, researcher in the world. So why I have to mention this? I believe, just as Nate said, right? You won't be able to learn CS without projects. Okay, then the question will be what project you want to work on. So to be honest with you, in the 4-year program, taking courses, of course, it's a must. You have to take some courses, right? But it's not, it won't give you the sufficient knowledge to succeed, in the future as a CS major. A more important thing, I would say a more important thing is, outside the classroom, you have to, expose yourself to some research or project experiences. Okay. Then these professors I mentioned, they are the best resources you can get on the campus because they are doing research. So they need people like you to succeed their own research program. Okay. So don't be too shy. You just reach out to them. You are like throwing like a $10,000 to them. So they will be very happy to see you, reaching out to them. Okay. So any professor working on the lab, working on the campus, they will be very glad to see students like you, reach out to them to see some whether they can, whether you can work for the volunteer yourself or with the lab. Some of them they even have some research positions. They give you some stipend, monthly payment to have you work with them. Okay. So that's kind of the, that's just one way you can get your some kind of a project experiences. Usually in second year or third year, I would recommend you guys to do some internship in summer. Okay, it's super important. Once because once you go to some company, you could work with them for some real world project, you will find a way to transfer your knowledge you learn in the classroom. Okay, and sharpen that. So this is very, very important. Then on the campus, we also have many like student organizations. For example, I found advice the AI club, like 3 years ago. So you can participate, this kind of, academic student organizations. San Diego State, we are very known for the, for the big parties, but we also very known, we also have many student organizations, not for party. They just for academic purpose, okay? So they don't have like dancing, events, but they will give you some very nice experiences in cybersecurity, in robotics, in AI, If you have interest in math, that's a math club. Okay, mathematics and statistics club. So definitely this will be very cool places. You know, you will meet with your peers who have the same interest. All right. So how many students are general in the 100, 200 courses? That's another very good question. So I would say, so in 100, 200 courses, because they are required courses. So every single CS major minor will be required to be there. So usually the class size are larger than the elective courses. But right now our department chair, you know, Dr. Ren, she tried to, you know, minimize, shrink the class to at least have a control over the class size. So normally it's like 60 students. So at the most 60 students. So that's a kind of an average size. But for most of the elective courses, we try to control that within 40 students. Usually it's like 30, around 30, 35, you know, to 30 to 40. All right. Great. So it seems we answer all the questions. Any other question you want to throw here, or you can email us. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Nico. Okay, great. And sorry again for being late. As you see, I kind of sit in a garage of my neighbors. The internet at my home doesn't work. All right. So if you don't have a question, so I will call it an end. Thank you, guys, and welcome to San Diego State.